Well, welcome back to Lifestyle. We're so glad that you're joining us, and we're talking about something today that all of us love to do at this time of year is go outside. But we really want to take the interiors of our home to the outside. But how do you do it? Well, one of the things I did this weekend, I was weekend warrior, and I actually had these finials, brackets, and a rod, and I thought, what could I use that for? And I hung it on the side of the porch with my husband's help, hung two wire baskets with some plants in those, and it just created a nice little focal point. So we're going to give you a lot more tips that you can use on your porch because I'm joined right here with Shirley Horowitz of Davishire Interiors, and we're going to be talking about porches. But I'm so glad you're back with us.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. You teach us so much. I get more comments about how fascinating everything that you talk about. You're just so good at what you do.
Denise, thank you so much.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
that. But it's fun being here, and I'm especially excited about talking about porches today.
Well, before we get into that, just let everybody know what Davishire Interiors, where you're located, and what you do.
Well, Davishire is at 2106 21st Avenue South, and we do everything for the interior and exterior. We work with floor plans and with architect's plans, but we also do draperies and furniture and upholstery and reupholstery, etc., etc., etc.
You do everything for the interiors, but what people might not know, and you just did this for the O'Moore Show House. If you didn't get a chance to see it, we're going to be featuring it because these two ladies that are with me today are going to be featured in the Traditional Home magazine. That's all coming up. But right now, let's talk about your outdoor space. You say you really should treat it like another room in your home.
Like an indoor space, because you are going outside to do the same things that you do inside. You may be going outside to read, to eat, to watch television, to relax. All of those things that you need inside, you also need outside. So that's the approach that we take. First, bringing the indoors out, and then using materials that make it last, using materials that are comfortable but that will withstand the outdoor elements.
And you've really surprised me because when I came to see your porch, I was absolutely amazed. I mean, in the 15 years that we've been doing outdoor spaces, the materials that we have available now, I remember when we first started,
Fabulous. Yes.
Fabrics, you were afraid to leave them outside because they would rot, and then electrical, that was always dangerous, but of course designers, we love to put it out. Now you can get things that are rated for outdoors, so tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we used to have, Sunbrella was just like a marvelous fabric that came on the scene. But now there are more fabrics than Sunbrella, and one of the first ones that we used was a sheer that you'll see in a few moments for drapery outside. Totally an indoor-outdoor fabric, outdoor fabrics on the all of the upholstery, but they're made from Antron nylons and from various plastics, basically, so that none of the dirt, none of the elements in the air will penetrate the fiber.
But it looks so supple, and these styles now that we have to choose from is just amazing. Well, we've got some pictures of the show house of your outdoor room that's absolutely beautiful. Tell me what we're seeing here, Shirley.
Well, in the background you're seeing the sheer fabric that you and I just talked about, but it's not just a pretty fabric and a pretty treatment. It also gives you some privacy from the neighbors, even though the house next door is gorgeous because one of our Davishire designers did it. But it does give a little bit of privacy, and then also it diffuses the light. The sun actually sets behind that sheer, and so it diffuses the light in the afternoon if you're out there reading or eating at the table.
So really double duty there. And on the table too, I might mention architectural elements are always important to you, and I love because they make your design one of a kind.
Well, that table was made from an old stone planter, and then we put a big piece of glass on it. We could actually put a much larger piece, but we had to make room for the traffic at the show house.
Right.
But it would have held a much larger piece of glass, and of course that's a great dining table. And then on top of it, we used an antique Japanese bronze cauldron, and then inside are the beautiful flowers, tulips, or rather lilies and orchids, with little wood sticks that almost make it look like a bird's nest.
Now, Shirley, only you would think of using a cauldron. Whenever I think of a cauldron, I'm thinking, the witch's brew. And you made it so beautiful. I mean, was that an antique?
That was an antique,
There
yes.
is
It's
no
a 19th
telling.
century bronze.
There's no telling what has happened in that little cauldron.
Oh, there is no telling.
Now, I like the feature that you had behind there, too. The stone piece.
Yes, that is a really wonderful old 19th century statue from France. And it's darling. It's a little boy jumping back from a frog. A frog is at his feet and it's frightened him. But it was a good piece to use in front of the window, because looking through the window is Joanne Haynes' sunroom, which was absolutely gorgeous.
Wow.
Looking out of her sunroom is our sculpture.
You know what? That is a great tip. So really putting an architectural element in front of the window. I hadn't thought of that, but you're getting to enjoy it from the interior and the
exterior.
You
right.
are so smart.
Right.
Now, this is something you love to do, whether it's a Paris balcony or an architectural, just an iron piece. You create and make these tables.
Yes, this actually is an old balcony, an old iron balcony, and it has been converted into a console with a concrete top. On top of that, we used a beautiful big antique urn for flowers, and there are all kinds of wonderful greenery and thyme and just various things. But also notice again the sticks. Melissa Segura did all of these arrangements, and you see how in this case we wanted not to really look at the window. It goes into a gorgeous laundry room, but we really wanted not to feature the window so much. So by using the tall sticks, it takes away the accent point.
And those sticks can stay in that arrangement. That you really don't have to manage those.
Right.
You and I were talking about overwatering plants. You don't have to worry about overwatering.
No, the dead ones are great. We're really good with dead plants.
Dried is what she means. No, that's great. But yeah, I like your idea again in front of the window, whether you are wanting an accent at the window or you wanting to kind of
wanting a focal point or something else as a focal point.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And now this again, now you have to tell the story, because when I was on the porch here, you were telling me that when the show house opened, these window treatments went through so much. I mean, was it just the rain from?
No, the day that we were installing the drapery, we had 40-mile-per-hour winds.
Wow.
And then 2 days later, we had a hailstorm. And then, of course, that doesn't even count the rain and the blowing winds, the blowing rain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to do something that was going to withstand everything.
Exactly.
We knew that. But what we didn't know is that we needed to tie it down, not just at the side, but to tie it down at the bottom. So we created tie backs so that the drapery could be tied to the railing. And so what that created was a billowing drapery instead of a flying drapery.
Oh, that's
but
good.
You see how that billows, and it's really beautiful. It's southern, it's dreamy, and that's what we really wanted. But those 40-mile-per-hour winds helped us learn what to do.
Exactly. And look at all the lights that you have. You've got light fixtures out. You've also got a table here.
The light fixtures are actually alabaster, and those lamps were meant to be used inside, but we wired them for exterior use.
Which is completely different. We should let everyone know. Don't try to take your indoor lamps outdoor. They really need to be rated, right?
They have to be wired for exterior use. Just like
start
a chandelier or an outdoor fan, anything like that. Then also, if we had not been doing this for a show house, we probably would have had metal shades made. They can be made from copper, and they're wonderful. Of course, they turn green over the years, but they can be used year-round. These shades were really they were plastic shades just for the show house.
Right, just to make sure that they weathered. But certainly you can take lamps like the alabaster. It needs to be a material that can, obviously, materials that were already outside, outdoor, and then you wire them so that you don't have the problem with fire.
Right. Also, in using the alabaster, that was a very heavy material, so that with all of the winds and the wind gusts, it was strong enough to withstand that.
Right, right. Well, we've got a little bit more that we're talking about too. Now, this surprised me because I really thought, okay, Shirley is pulling one over on me. This looks just like a chair I have inside my home.
It's a Louis XV style French chair, and very, very comfortable, but very surprising to most people. It is actually made of teak.
Okay.
So the teak, of course, is great for outdoor use.
Right.
The springs are also coated so that they are for outdoor use. And then here again is one of your beautiful fabrics that you were talking about earlier. This is an indoor-outdoor fabric that is velvet. It looks almost like pebbles, and it's made by a company called Perennials. So all of the materials that were in that are in the chair are for exterior use.
Wow.
Even the throw is from bamboo.
Oh, really?
And you've talked also about how using these things, we're actually being green. We're using things over the balcony, the tabletop a few moments ago.
That's right.
There was a wonderful pine bracket that was hanging behind this chair, this French chair.
I saw that, an architectural piece.
Right, another architectural piece that is something that was from a long time ago being used over again in a slightly different way.
Right, I love that, and it also adds a lot of interest on your porch. I mean, it's something that you're not going to see on other people's porches.
Right.
You know?
It was fun to see the expression on people's faces when they walked out and first saw the drapery and then saw the chair and all of these different things that and then the lamps. They just didn't think that those could be used outside.
I know, and that's what's amazing is there's so many products now that are available, and you've got all the resources if anyone wants to do something like this. What I love about you though is that it will be unique and no one else will have anything exactly like it. I think we've got one more shot of that beautiful porch. Oh, actually this is not at the show house.
You know, this is a porch that we did for a client about 3 years ago, and so you're seeing how well everything has weathered. You know, again using the indoor-outdoor fabrics, again using lots and lots of plants. You can barely see that we used an old urn as an end table for the sofa in the far end of the room, but everything again is glass, it's iron, it's wood, it's different kinds of metals, it's indoor-outdoor fabrics, and this is a porch that has withstood 3 years of summer and winter, spring and fall.
Wow. Now, do you recommend on a porch like this that they cover it with anything? I always see.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in the winter time.
Really from November through March, the furniture really should be covered with covers. They make special pieces for chairs, for tables, etc. And that really helps to add to the life of the piece, especially if it's exposed. At least this this was a porch. Right.
Now you have a porch on the side of your home that does not have a cover.
Right.
So do you cover everything out there? What about those architectural elements? I love that you like to use remnants and architectural pieces. Everything. In fact, you will have to watch in just a few more weeks. We shot over at Shirley's home, and we showed all of these different architectural elements that you've turned into tables. So do you leave those pieces out?
I leave those pieces out because the tops are granite, the pieces are iron. We had marble, marble planters that were old. So those are okay. It's really the newer furniture that needs to be covered. The metals will withstand the winter, but the finish is going to change if you don't cover them.
Right. So you really need to put a finish, maybe a sealer of some kind on those if you don't want them to naturally rust.
Right.
A lot of the urns,
a lot of the old pieces. That's the reason we leave them out, because it's fine for them to rust and for them to change color.
Right.
It's fine for the marble to have just a little bit of black or a little bit of green on it, but your new furniture is really what needs a little bit more protection, and definitely the cushions. The cushions need to be brought in or covered.
Well, now, can we also announce when is this coming out to be featured in Traditional Home Magazine?
I think it's in spring of 2015. That's what I've been told.
Well, we are so excited that we got to debut it.
Thank
you.
I
love all of your tips. This has been really good to talk about bringing the inside out, and I love all of the shapes that you've added. People can certainly contact you because you know all of the resources to be sure that the products that they purchase are going to last throughout the seasons and the years. And I like too that you've said, we want to caution everyone, let's don't use interior lighting or exterior lighting. We want to make sure that is rated for the outdoors.
Exactly.
And then
even the extension cords have to be outdoor.
Exactly.
So.
Well, that was the best advice, and then we'll be following up with your party tips here in just a little bit. But thank you so much, Shirley.
Thank you, Denise.
Well, you noticed the florals, right? Absolutely beautiful. And one of the tips from Ilex for Flowers is that this is the time, peonies or peonies, it depends on what part of the country you're from. This is the time where we want to bring those indoors. But here's the tip: make sure you shake them off, because guess what? They have lots of ants. So you want to shake those off before you bring them in. You can contact them at 736-5200, and their peonies, they don't have any ants. But anyway, when we come back, something that is a symbol of pride is a flag, but how do you display it in your home? I'm going to show you when we return.